Your boy has been waiting a long time to make this statement. It's game week.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You heard it correctly. Y'all, it's game week. For the first time in a long time, the Buckeyes are going to put on the pads. They're going to step inside the shoe in front of fans like you and I to play the game we love. Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to a Monday edition of Locked On Buckeyes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. And today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. Terms and conditions apply. It's game week, y'all. I've been waiting for this day for a very long time. I've been looking forward to the spring game for a very long time. Get the chance to get back inside the shoe to watch the Buckeyes in the scarlet and gray play a game we love, but also a very competitive game. A game that Ryan Day, Chip Kelly, Jim Knowles, and the other coaches have been looking forward to for quite a long time, but also a day where people like you and I can get a better handle on and a better grasp on who has the upper hand in some of these position battles at Ohio State. And currently, there's one that's getting a lot of attention. It's going to be the same way here for a very long time. The attention that the quarterback battle has been getting so far, it's only going to ramp up with how the players play in the spring game. And to me, when it comes to the spring game and how Ryan Day should analyze the play and the performances of these quarterbacks on this day, yes, it is weighted by one day. Also realizing you cannot eliminate the other 14 practices when trying to evaluate what you see on that one day to see if one quarterback has the upper hand over another in the quarterback battle. Think about this. You're a coach. You have spring practices. You have 15 of them. The 15th is a spring game. It's going to be live on Big Fox. So the first time ever Fox is broadcasting live a spring game. And of course, it's coming to the shoe. It just makes sense. But you're a coach and you have 15 spring practices. You realize the 15th practice is in the shoe. It's broadcast by Fox. There's a lot of stuff going around it. You might have 40 to 50,000, maybe 60,000 fans inside the shoe on that day. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. So in your mind, you may get caught up in the build-up. You may get caught up in what happens. You may get caught up on one throw or a series of throws and say, oh, well, what we saw today is the end-all, be-all. That is it. Forget the previous 14 practices. Forget the winter workouts. Forget everything else because we got everything we needed to see about our future QB1 on this day. That would not be good at all. That would actually be poor analysis, poor coaching, poor of you utilizing the resources that you have and the practices that you've completed. That would be very, very poor. And so when it comes to the spring game, yes, people like you and I that get an extended period of time to watch the players that are at the spring game, that are playing of the day, yes, that is one thing for us. But as a coach, you get way more than one day. You get way more than a practice that's on live television. You get way more than what anybody else may think you get. Even someone that is maybe the most tapped in that you think they are when it comes to Ohio State football news and notes, the coach knows way more than them. So the coach needs to realize, this being Ryan Day and Chip Kelly, this is not the end-all, be-all. This is just a mark, a benchmark in what is a long process to decide who the starting quarterback is. Also, let me add this to you. Ryan Day does not need to know in his heart, in his mind, who the QB1 is at the end of that day. If he already knows, great. I doubt he does. And also, if he does not, and if that day is not clear-cut, one guy is way better than the others, you got all summer. You got fall camp. I am not a fan of letting that thing go into the beginning of the regular season, but Ryan Day did it last year. It wouldn't shock me if he does it again. One thing we do know, this day is going to be fun. Yeah, Devin Brown versus Will Howard, that is where all of our eyes are. That gets all of the attention. And trust me, those are the two guys that I believe are going to be the top of the pecking order on Saturday, and they currently are that right now in regards to who is going to be first, who is second in regards to the offense and the quarterbacks. But let me keep this in mind and keep it in context. We did a show a while ago talking about players and quarterbacks that can shake up the Buckeyes quarterback battle. Lincoln Kienholz is in that mix. Julian Sand is in that mix. I don't believe that Aaron Nolan has a shot right now to get in the mix. I don't think he's progressed enough, and I don't think he's done enough so far to say, hey, he can be a potential year one starter. And let's keep it in context. He wasn't expected ever to be a year one starter. No matter if Kyle McCord is here or Will Howard is here, doesn't matter. Nobody expected Aaron Nolan to be a year one starter, so it's not really a problem. Nobody expected Julian Sand to come in and make the noise that he has made so far, but he's doing it. But he has. And so when it comes to the quarterback battle, yes, our eyes are on Devin Brown and Will Howard. But if Lincoln Kienholz blows up and makes some amazing plays, remember that one day does not mean he's going to be that guy. But also, he can shake things up. If Julian Sand, who is a small quarterback, he needs to mature physically before I think he's ready to play consistent ball in college. If Julian Sand goes out there and lights things up and shows out and he outperforms everybody else, whoo, that's a good way to throw a curveball in this thing. That's a good way to shake things up in regards to what's going on at Ohio State. That's a good way to make things a little bit more difficult for Ryan Day in the evaluation process of his quarterbacks. But also, even if he does, if he's had 5 good practices, and this is his 5th good practice out of 15, don't forget the 10 practices that weren't like that weren't above average or that were just a little questionable and were a little shaky. Don't forget those. You can't do that. But let me tell you, I've said it once. I'll say it again. Will Howard came here to start. There's nothing else to say. He came here to start. And so regards to Will Howard coming here and the reason why he came here, keep that in mind. I personally believe that Devin Brown's going to have to do a lot consistently, throwing the football and with the intangibles to go over Will Howard to start this year. And I'm not sold that either guy is going to be a future All-American or winning the best quarterback award in the conference. I am not saying any of that at all, because when you bring in USC and UCLA and Oregon and Washington, what are they bringing along with them? Really good quarterbacks. Now, not all 4 are going to be amazing quarterbacks, but they're bringing in really good quarterbacks. So Will Howard, who is a good quarterback, an above average quarterback, he's going to have to do what? Play really, really good. Or Devin Brown's going to have to do what? Play really, really good to be in the mix with those guys. But hey, Devin Brown versus Will Howard is what we're all looking at and focusing on. But Ryan Day needs to focus on realizing this is not the day. The performances today are not what I base Ryan Day speaking now. It's not what Ryan Day bases the decision on who's going to be QB1 in Columbus. That's not it. Never has been. Never will be. That's not it. But what it is, it's a benchmark. It's a great time to see how they perform in front of fans that are rooting for them. I mean, literally, fans that are at the spring game are rooting for these Buckeye players to do well. It's not like you're going into the Big House, or you're going into the Rose Bowl Stadium, or you're not going into the LA Coliseum, or you're not going into Austin State. Not you're going into all these different stadiums on the West Coast or in the Midwest and the Big Ten. It's not like you're going into all these other stadiums. Oh, you're in your home field. You're on your home turf. Everybody there wants you to succeed. Well, almost everybody. I'm sure there'll be some people that are saying, no, don't do. Why? Don't even go. People there want you to succeed. That is it. And with that in mind, just go out there and play your game. Brown, Howard, Kienholz, Sand, Nolan, if all 5 quarterbacks play, go out there and just play your game. And Ryan Day, let them play their game. You call your game. Let everything else fall where it may. Coming up next, we'll dive into another important position battle. This one regarding the Buckeyes wide receivers. This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. It gives you access to professionals you can't find anywhere else. LinkedIn does all that while making the process easy and intuitive. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Position battles are things we always watch at the spring game. Doesn't matter if you're going to your first spring game or maybe you've been going for the past 50 years. Everybody watches position battles. Of course, the quarterbacks are going to get all the attention as they're going to. But let's just go right to the players that the quarterbacks are going to throw to the most. Emeka Egbuka is a starter. There's no questions about that. There's no changing that. I do believe if he plays well in the upcoming season, he can be a future and potential first-round pick in the 2025 NFL draft. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He is that good. And I really wonder if he would have been a first-round pick this year if he, with his injuries and the way that the season went, I truly wonder, would he have been a first-round pick or not? Second-round pick would have been a bad thing, but it's Ohio State. He's done a lot of amazing things. All those things go into Emeka Egbuka potentially being a first-round pick this year, even though he dealt with injuries throughout this past season. But what about the other receivers that are at Ohio State, and where do they fall in the line of reasoning and questioning and just question marks in regards to the Buckeyes wide receiver room? If Emeka Egbuka is automatically a starter, and I do believe he will, he can start outside, he can start inside. I think he'll be more of a slot receiver this year. Cardinal Tate and Brandon Ennis are the next two names that come to my mind, just because they've been there a little bit longer. We'll get to Jeremiah Smith here in a second. Those two guys being here longer, I do think Brandon Ennis and Cardinal Tate are battling for one of the outside receiver spots. I understand Ennis may be better as a slot receiver, but where do you find it? Do you want Emeka as a slot? Do you want Emeka outside? Or if you want Emeka outside, who is your slot? Is it Tate or is it Ennis? Which one is it? And I'm cool with Emeka playing outside or inside. I think that doesn't really bother anyone. I think it's a great way to look at Emeka's skill set and the versatility he brings to the field. But think about this. If you got Emeka Egbuka in the slot, and let's say you have Tate on the outside, I think the next got to be the other outside receiver is Jeremiah Smith. I think Jeremiah Smith, he will have to do something crazy wrong and like just start going backwards consistently for him to not be a starter in the fall. He is that good. And many of you saw the catch that he made over the weekend where he was, I couldn't even tell who was guarding him, but it was, he was getting held. It was pass interference. Old boy had one arm on the back of the jersey, one arm on the front of the jersey. Jeremiah Smith, I believe it was his left hand was locked up. Then all of a sudden he reaches with the other hand and catches the ball with one hand. There was a photographer in the back of the end zone that had his camera in one hand, his right hand, turned, made one of them. Those of y'all watching the YouTube right now realize you saw my face when I said, like that face you say and you show in regards to, man, that was a nice and nasty catch. Next thing you know, I forget the guy's name, forget the coach's name, but they flashed to him, and he does one of those where you put your hand, you make one of those, ooh, did he just do that faces? But then he put his hand over his mouth to kind of just, I don't know why he did that, or just a natural reaction. Just like, ooh, that was nasty. And I know a lot of you watching right now via the audio may not get a great picture of the way that's in the look on my face, but think about you do something and someone's on the court and they dunk on somebody on basketball and they dunk on somebody, or somebody gets mossed and it's one of them nasty ones. You're like, ooh, did he just do that? One of those faces. Picture that, or hop over to the YouTube scroll a little bit and you'll find the picture, you'll find the face, and you'll realize what your boy is talking about. I do think, though, it's Emeka Egbuka, the top 4 receivers at Ohio State easily. Emeka Egbuka, Brandon Ennis, Cardinal Tate, Jeremiah Smith. I think Smith is a starter, Egbuka is a starter. Then they got to realize, is it Cardinal Tate or Ennis who is going to start the other receiver? I think all 4 will play. No questions asked. I think that's going to be an easy decision for Chip Kelly and Brian Hartline to make. What about the others? And when I say the others, I legit mean the others. Because you got 4 in Smith and Ennis and Tate and Egbuka. But then you got guys like Bryson Rogers, Jaden Ballard, Kojo Antwi, Kyon Graves, just to name a few. Graves, Ballard, and Antwi have been there at Ohio State the longest. Bryson Rogers was a true freshman, or really still in a true freshman season. Entered the portal, came back to Ohio State, so this is where I want to be. Some say Bryson Rogers is the 5th receiver at Ohio State. Do you really think, and I'm starting to believe Ballard is, I know Ballard's not in the top 4. Jaden Ballard might not be in the top 5. Is he number 6? Is he number 7? Does that mean Jaden Ballard's going to be on Ohio State at the end of spring practice? At the end, when the portal opens. When the portal opens, it wouldn't shock me if Kyon Graves, Jaden Ballard, or Kojo Antwi, or maybe all of them, which you don't want all of them to leave, but it wouldn't shock me if one of them goes into the portal. Because you're coming in, you're older than Tate and Ennis and Smith. But what are you? Currently behind them, Antwi, Ballard, and Graves. They're older than Bryson Rogers, but Rogers might jump them in the pecking order of the wide receiver room. So if all of that is true, and if all of that actually makes sense, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, then, buddy, Ohio State's receivers are going to be fine. That's one position I don't question this year. I think there's a benefit. There's a plus and a negative, a pro and a con to Julian Fleming. That's what I was trying to get to. A pro and a con in regards to Julian Fleming not being on the team. What Julian Fleming did not give you in the receiving game, or the pass catching game, he gave you that in the run blocking game as a receiver. Now, what he did not give you in the pass catching game or the passing game, he did give you in leadership on the team. So with Fleming not be there, you do lose leadership. You lose a guy that was working to get better. You lose a guy that was a good run blocker. You lose a guy that really struggled to get open, struggled to catch the ball at times. And if his 1 year with Stroud, or a couple years ago, his numbers with Stroud were better than his numbers this past year with McCord. And I don't know if that was McCord. I don't know if it's Fleming. Well, a lot of that was on Fleming. I can't even try to sugarcoat that. A lot of that was on Fleming. However, he's gone. I wonder and I question, and I'm going to throw it at you before we get up out of here on this topic. How well will the young guys run block on Saturday? If we're talking about position battles we're watching, and I'm watching all of these guys between the quarterbacks he mentioned earlier, the receivers we're talking about right now, how well do these guys block as receivers? I was listening to someone talk recently, and it was, Ray Allen. He was on a podcast with JJ Redick. I think it's the Old Men in the 3. And Ray Allen was talking about him coaching and him talking to his son, the players he coaches, and the youngsters. And he says, hey, if you are cutting, always cut like you're getting the ball. Don't cut, and when you know you're not getting the ball, don't change and alter your cut to the basket or you're moving on the court, because it makes the defense's job a whole lot easier. Now, you may say, Jay, of course, that's an easy thing to say, but a lot of guys don't do it, which isn't right. I just got done watching, before recording this, the NCAA Women's Division I Basketball Championship. Don't know if that's the correct title, but I watched that. South Carolina beat Iowa, and there were times I'm out there, and you could tell by body language what someone was going to do. May it be positive or negative on the court. I'm not here to call out names. I'm not here to slander, not really slander, just analyze people right now on this topic. But you can tell by the body language with someone's movement what their plans were with their body on the court, or what their plans are with the ball. And the same goes with receivers. If you're a wide receiver blocking downfield and your release when it's a run play is different than when it's a pass play, you're giving the defense exactly what they need to take advantage of you on that play. That's it. So I'm watching the receivers. not just in how they carry themselves and how they run their routes, how they catch the ball, but also I am watching them and how well they do in run blocking. Is that a little nerdy of me? Yes. But that's what y'all expect from yours truly. Coming up next, we have other position battles to discuss: linebackers, the tight ends, and of course, the O-line. This episode is brought to you by Billiards Plus. Billiards Plus has the best selection of pool tables, game tables, shuffleboard tables, and more. And the best service in Central Ohio. And guys, check this out. Billiards Plus carries grills that have up to 30-year warranties. That's right, a grill with a 30-year warranty. Everything you need for in-home and backyard entertainment is at Billiards Plus. Billiards Plus carries the best pool tables from Brunswick, Alhausen, Canada, Billiards, and more. And the grills, whether you like charcoal or gas or wood-fired, Billiards Plus has a perfect setup for all grillers. They are family-owned and operated, and when you talk to the staff at Billiards Plus, you know you're talking to an expert who won't steer you wrong. No matter the season, Billiards Plus has you covered for all your indoor and outdoor entertainment needs. Kitty, Sarah, and the whole staff will always go above and beyond to give you the best customer service in the industry. Billiards Plus, visit their showroom on Dublin Center Drive in Dublin. I really, really hope y'all are looking forward to the spring game as much as I am. I'll be there. My wife will be there as well. And I'm looking forward to watching this Buckeye team play the football inside the shoe, and really looking forward to some more of these guys are going to talk about and see how they're going to play. O-line, linebackers, tight ends, we're going to close up shop. Offensive line, to me, there are three positions that are still up for grabs: center, right guard, and right tackle. I understand many people believe, and there's a narrative out there, that the center position is already locked up at Seth McLaughlin's. I am not in that camp, and I have not been in that camp for a while. I have not been in that camp since he transferred to Ohio State. I do not believe Carson Hinsman is completely ruled out of being the starting center at Ohio State. I think that position battle is a little bit tighter than some may think. Now, no matter who wins that position battle, if it's McLaughlin or if it's Hinsman, it would make a whole lot of sense for the one that loses it, simply bump them over to right guard. That's not me saying Luke Montgomery, who some are simply just putting in there with Penn to say he's a right guard for the Buckeyes in the fall. But I do think it makes a whole lot of sense to play a guy in Hinsman or McLaughlin who's already been a starter previously, done some good things at the schools they were at last year. It'll make a whole lot of sense to just bump them out to the right side one position. It makes a whole lot of sense. But I'm curious to see between those three guys, actually four, because I'm not sold Joshua Fryer is a right tackle. I think it makes more sense for Josh Fryer to be a guard, but do I think he's a better option at guard than Montgomery or McLaughlin or Hinsman? I don't know. I really not really, from what I've seen from Fryer, and I'm not just, people have said, I've heard some these narratives out there. People saying, well, Fryer was, a lot of times when he made mistakes, they led to sacks. Not all the time. Not all the time. So I don't really encourage people to believe everything that you hear. But I do believe this, though. Between Fryer, Montgomery, Hinsman, and McLaughlin, one of those guys is going to be your center, your guard, or your tackle. I think for center, it's a two-headed monster between Hinsman and McLaughlin. At right guard, I think it's a battle between Montgomery, McLaughlin, and Hinsman. I think those three are there. And Fryer. All four of those guys are in that. But then for tackle, I still think Fryer and Montgomery, I think they're trying to figure out what's the best spot for them. One at guard, one at tackle. What's the best thing there? I think that's it. Just those four guys, those three spots, cool. Left side of the line between Josh Simmons and Donovan Jackson, that's cool. That's done. I don't think anybody's going to change that. If Donovan Jackson is not progressing and getting better and somebody else is a better option, I would be shocked if he got benched. But just saying, some of the film for Jackson last year wasn't the best. Let's move to the linebacker spot. Got to move quickly because I cannot go as long on these as I have previously with other positions. At linebacker, of course, Cody Simon came back for another year at Ohio State instead of transferring or going to the NFL. Very, very, very wise decision. Sonny Styles is moving to linebacker. CJ Hicks is playing a whole lot better. And Alvaro Reese is one of those guys that's going to be right there competing to get on the field as a Buckeye linebacker. In regards to Sonny Styles and Cody Simon, those two guys might start at the spring game. I don't know, and I am not sold that CJ Hicks is now one of the guys that's competing to start with those three guys. Part of me believes we can see a scenario where it's Hicks and Styles on the field together, and Simon is a third linebacker. And Simon is not a bad guy. Don't get me wrong. I think the versatility of the other two give the Buckeyes a better chance with the defense this year. I think Simon's more of a situational linebacker. I think Hicks and Styles can be on the field all 3 downs, no matter what part of the field you're on. That's great. Now, Arvell Reese is one. I'm curious to see what happens. Do they pull off the jack position and use Arvell Reese or CJ Hicks? Great, cool. That makes sense. Do they move Arvell Reese in more of a defensive end 2-point stance? Take out one of the guys, but I don't know. Like I keep hearing good things about him, but I'm just not sure exactly where he's going to fit in. Then last but not least, tight end, two-headed monster, Will Kazmarek, who recently lost his black stripe, and then also G. Scott Jr. G. Scott Jr. has been there for a long time. He looks more like a Buckeye tight end in his build-up and his makeup and his physique that he ever has before. I mean, we look at him like, oh, you're more of a tight end today than you were this day a year ago. That's just where he is. He's done a lot of things. He's listened to the coaches, listened to the training staff, the nutritionists at Ohio State. They have helped him to gain the healthy weight that is needed to change to be a wide receiver for the Buckeyes and a tight end for the Buckeyes. I don't know where the coaches sit with this one. I thought Kazmarek came to Ohio State to start, and I still part of me believes he's going to start. However, if G. Scott Jr. gives you a better chance for the offense overall than Kazmarek, you might find a spot where Scott Jr. is your starting tight end and Kazmarek is the backup. I don't know. You got more eligibility with Kazmarek than G. Scott Jr., so I think that may tie into it, which it shouldn't. It may. What should tie into it? Who gives you the best opportunity to be successful as an offense? Pass play, run play, doesn't matter. Which player gives you the best opportunity to be successful as an offense and run with that? And I do think that's the thought you have with any position battle. If Will Howard gives you a better opportunity than Devin Brown to be successful as an offense, he should be above Brown. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. If Jeremiah Smith gives you a better opportunity to be successful than Cardinal Tate does, Jeremiah Smith is above Cardinal Tate in the pecking order. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And that goes for anything, any position. Here's another one. They don't really touch on it. It's not really as important of a battle or as crucial of a battle as it is with these other ones that we mentioned. If Travion Henderson gives you a better opportunity for the offense to be successful than Quinshon Judkins, start Henderson. If Judkins gives you a better option for the Buckeyes offense to be successful than Travion Henderson, start Judkins. I think it's that simple. Are both guys really good? Are they really talented? Yes. Are they two of the best running backs in the conference? Yes. However, what will I say? If one gives you a better opportunity for your offense to be successful than another, play the one that gives you the opportunity to be the most successful. That's it. That is it. And I think that is where the team needs to be in regards to not just these 5 position battles, but all the position battles going on right now at The Ohio State University. Out of here, y'all. Here on a Monday. Love being back. Got some more good stuff coming your way. If you missed a show last week in regards to Marvin Harrison Jr. and Cade Stover, a little pre-draft conversation about the kind of prospects they are, what to expect from them in regards to the where they might land in the draft. Check that show out last week. Got a show coming up this week later on in regards to Mayan Williams and Matthew Jones, the type of prospects that they are and where they might get drafted in the upcoming NFL draft. It's coming your way later on this week. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on the YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On Plus, our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. You guys can follow me on X at jstevens07. Send all of your emails to jstevens317@gmail.com. Buckeye fans, out here on a Monday. We'll see you next time.